My name is David Shapiro. I'm 44 years old.
My name is Atrayus Goode. I'm 34 years old. So for me, I felt that I had an obligation to give back in many ways because mentoring was the ways in which I had been, developed over the course of my life, and that led me to start a mentoring program that grew, and now we're doing work together. And so for me, I think mentoring is the lens in which I view the world, and I think that it's much more than trying to help a young person, which I think is sometimes the lens that mentoring is looked through. This notion of a young person being empty and that they need to be saved. And I think that that's challenging for me, recognizing our history that Black and brown youth are overwhelmingly the ones that are being mentored. And those youth don't need to be saved. It's a conversation about power and the systematic stripping of one's agency. And so I think that mentoring can be leveraged to have these larger conversations about racial equity and social justice, and what does it mean for adults and young people to walk side by side to figure out how do we build a society that gives space for people to show up as full human beings. And I think that mentoring really for me it's about relationships. It's about how do you connect with someone in a very authentic way, allowing them to show up, to be bold, to be vulnerable, but ultimately to live the best life possible. During in what way do you think the work of the National Mentoring Partnership might be able to play in the space of racial equity and social justice?
Yeah, I think I would have tremendous difficulty with this work if advocacy and policy wasn't a part of our work. I think I would struggle with that. And I understand that there are direct service organizations out there that they don't have space for that. They're working on the direct service work, and I don't begrudge them at all. Yeah. But a huge part of our platform at Mentor, as sort of like a B2B play or working with other organizations, is one, to help them do this work in a way that, whether it's, Dr. Tori Wieston-Serdan's work on critical race theory and mentoring called critical mentoring, to bring these things to the field. Okay. And we have the ability to infuse their practices. We have the ability to make ads that don't represent that mentors are saviors. We have the ability to depict what's going on in American schools, to write op-eds about here's why we need mentoring. Here's what's going on. Here are the systemic failures that breed the necessity of mentoring, rather than just saying more mentoring. I think there was a time when that's what we said.
No, I feel like I'm on a quest for everyday intimacy. I think that this notion of creating a space where people can show up as their whole selves seems to be incredibly simple yet difficult at the same time, that we have created all these complex distractions to keep us away from honest relationships with one another. And so my journey is figuring out, how do I build that with my daughter? How do I build that with people that I may meet randomly? How do I build that with folks that I care about? Because I think a lot of the things that we're struggling with, I think, really come from a lack of connection, that we really haven't spent enough time with one another, really listening and being present and figuring out ways in which we can just exist without any sort of pretense or title, that we just show up and we're good. And that's an everyday journey. And so I'm just hoping to continue to do that.
Well, I want to thank you. I think you're probably living your values, because I don't know the last time I had a 45-minute conversation with a colleague and friend with no agenda and where we could just bring our whole selves. So I feel like this experience in and of itself was very much a expression of connection, an expression of intimacy, expression of bringing your whole self, and yet another privilege for me in a life of lots of privileges, including the work we get to do together. So I thank you for your friendship, man, and the way you teach me. So thanks.